My name is Ryan. I work here at Crow Canyon. Um, and let me show the screen here. You can see my screen. Perfect. Okay, yeah, and today we're going to be talking about an employee self-service portal. This is kind of a new concept for Crow Canyon. This is something that we've done in pieces in the past, and it's something that we've been building towards with a lot of our previous webinars. So if you attended those previously or you're a customer, some of this may be repeat information, but right now what we're doing and what we're focusing on is tying all this together specifically in your SharePoint environment, Office 365 environment, right? Looking at the polls. It's a pretty even split between 2013, 2016 on Office 365, and to be honest, that's what I expected. And like I said, we're going to be going back towards, how we can tie everything together to keep it, kind of create a one-stop shop within your environment. So that's going to be the focus of today's webinar. But before we get too far into it, I just want to talk a little bit about who we are. So we've been around since '99. We started as a help desk company out in the old Outlook folder system, and then we've maturated to specifically building on top of SharePoint, SharePoint on-premise, SharePoint Online. And there's two different sides to our business. Really, how I see it, there's two different sides, and we're going to be touching on those today in some detail as we move forward. But one side is our applications. So the employee self-service portal, a help desk, work order tracking, purchase requests, right? The flip side is something that we call the Nitro Studio. Now, the Nitro Studio is the tool set that we build our applications on. Forms, workflows, reporting, these portals, AI services, branding, etc. Now, we used to leverage other third-party tools to run our applications, but it was just too difficult for us to maintain a high level of customer support and service to not have our own tool set. And what we found now, like as we dig more into Nitro Studio, as it becomes more of a standalone, build it or do it yourself set of tools, is that as we shift away from InfoPath, it's difficult to pick up these tools that Microsoft is putting into place, Power Apps, Flow, things that are tied into a specific user as opposed to a list or a site, right? And from, I think, Scott Reciva, who is our CEO, he's on the webinar as well, answering questions. He likes to say the citizen developer, right? In my opinion, using those tools to go out and develop on top of SharePoint, whether it's on premise or online, using those tools is difficult, and then you're relying upon a billion-dollar company to support you. So that's the Nitro Studio focus, right? That's the application focus. Being able to give power not only to the departmental manager, but as we move into this portal structure, maybe someone in marketing or HR who's in charge of employee engagement, right? I know a lot of the folks on today's webinar are going to be IT staff or, IT managers, CIOs, things like that. But the departmental managers out there with us, we want to be able to give you the power to go in and make changes without having to leverage your IT team. And for the IT staff, you want to be able to feel comfortable letting your team make changes, or them to feel comfortable making changes without having to come to you day in and day out to tweak their sites, change their forms, etc. So that's kind of the Crow Canyon background. Now let's shift our focus a little bit more into what we're talking about today, specifically this concept of a self-service portal, an employee landing page. Right now, what we see are what a lot of our potential customers and customers that I speak to have this concept of all of these different applications living in their space, or the idea of wanting to house all of their requests in one common system. So like you have, a help desk, you have a marketing tool, you have a project management site like Jira, a CRM like Salesforce, maybe you're using Dynamics, right? So you have all these different applications living in your system, and it's up to your end users or you, as decision makers, or like I said, IT staff members or departmental managers, to educate your end users on how to find these tools, whether it's bookmarks or multiple documents on how to log in and gain access to these systems. And it creates kind of a bit of chaos, right? From what we've seen, or really from what we've heard, right? Managing multiple passwords, managing just multiple requests spread out across all these different siloed applications, these siloed departments living within your system. So now our idea is to control the chaos, to put everything into one centralized location at your employees' fingertips. So in my opinion, you've already made the decision to leverage, or most of us in this case have made the decision to leverage SharePoint, whether it's on-premise or Office 365 as a platform, right? So on-premise, we've made the expense, we've purchased the server, purchased the software. We've already made that expense. Office 365, it's more of a subscription base, but we're still paying for those services. So if you're already paying for those services, why not leverage what you're already paying for, right? SharePoint and Office 365 are powerful tools. And I think right now the stigma behind it or against SharePoint and Office 365 is that it's difficult to use, or it's not empowering the end users like I was talking about previously. So that's the idea here. It's to give you that one-stop shop, that centralized place for your employees to go, a landing page, and then submit requests across your entire organization, right? So whether they hit the self-service portal and it's an IT help desk ticket, or it's a facilities request, or it's an onboarding request, if it's something going out to Salesforce, like I said, it's all going to be centralized from that one space. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're restricting this to be strictly a ticketing system, right? Now, that's going to be the main focus. Requests, information passing is definitely number one, but there are things that we can do with this portal that make it more flexible. And that's where we look at the Nitro Studio. So those familiar with the modern UI, these different pages basically are web part pages, right? And we have the ability to go in and add tools into these pages to make it easier to use. The classic UI is a little bit more restricted in that regard, but our team has really put in the hard hours and work to make the classic UI pretty darn close to what you can do with the modern UI, from adding web parts into a page, or in this case, a portal. So I talked about submitting requests. The other thing here is like knowledge base, right? Being able to access knowledge base articles across all of your departments, right? Whether that's, like I said, HR, IT, etc., having that one place to consume knowledge. Now, what I like about this portal, or about these tools specifically, kind of going back to the functionality, and I don't want to spend too much time here, but since we're tying these forms or reports or knowledge base or libraries and KB libraries, since these are all tied specifically to those lists or those sites or those views, these are going to be live. So I feel like the problem with like an intranet page is that the content becomes a little bit static, right? You have to make someone kind of owner of that space to go in and say, okay, we have to add in this article, or we have to add in a new item for this article. Just by updating an IT ticket, updating a status, hey, Ryan's been assigned to your ticket, your end user is going to have access to that information automatically, right? We've added a new notification. The HR software is now Namely, and here's how to get into that system. Okay. The internet's down, right? Anytime we update those backend sites, it's pushing it automatically up to this self-service portal. So you don't have to name one person responsible to keep track of this. It's going to do it. It's going to do it independent. Each site can do it independently, I guess is the best way to say it. And when it comes to end user communication, I think that's kind of number 3 that pops out in my mind, is how do we communicate with our end users? So keeping that content fresh is big. It's important. But how do we keep our end users in the know? Well, another piece of the Nitro Studio, for those familiar with it, you have the ability to pass emails back and forth in relation to requests. But another option, or another way that we see it, or we've seen a growing presence of this, and some companies that utilize Crow-Canyon are starting to take advantage of this more and more, is our AI services. So our chatbots, I guess is the best way to say it. Now, you can embed these chatbots into the portal itself. So what's cool about this is that it's leveraging, like you can see here in the bottom right-hand corner, NLP, existing KB articles, maybe closed or archive requests to, well, A, cut down on requests from your end users, right? They can interact with the chatbot and say, hey, I can't log in. Okay, well, we have a knowledge base article on how to reset your password, right? And then it can prompt them through a series of questions and make sure that they're A, or is there, has their question been answered correctly? Or B, do we need to still connect with that department, right? Do we still want to submit a ticket? And we can actually take that chat conversation and turn it into a request. So as we move forward, like the things I'm hearing more and more from potential clients, companies, people I talk to at different conferences and shows is, how do we keep our employees engaged, and how do we cut down on human error? We all do it, right? We all make mistakes. I have an email conversation, I forget to log it, I forget to put in that person's ticket, right? But with the chatbot, with the fresh content, what we're doing is we are making things live and keeping our employees engaged. So that's the self-service portal, right? Being able to submit requests across all of your departments, being able to keep content fresh, embedding reports, embedding chat services into these, into the pages as well. Now let's talk about the third level, this third layer, right? Now, some folks who are on Office 365 or SharePoint Online, SharePoint on premise, it was like, okay, I have it, maybe I have mail up and running, maybe I've just kind of figured out what SharePoint is, or the flip side of, I know what SharePoint does, or I know what SharePoint can do. But right now what I want to do is get everyone on the same page and say, hey, SharePoint can be a place to house your applications. This can be a place for your business processes and business automation, right? So that's the other side of our business. That's the 2 points I made in the beginning is, okay, we have the applications, we have the ability to build these configurable portals. Let's put them together, right? So some of you on this call I know are Crow Canyon employees Crow Canyon customers, clients, and you've seen these before, right? IT help desk, maybe you have it, but it's a full help desk ticketing system. And for those who are not Crow Canyon clients, we've done a full webinar series on help desk, asset management, purchase requests, onboarding, but these are ready to go out of the box templates that fit right underneath that portal structure, right? So you go from, okay, I have this space, the SharePoint space, what do I do with it, to, okay, now I put in a portal in place, and I know I need a help desk, I know I need an onboarding system, I know I need somewhere to track benefits. And you have these plug and play tools that work right out of the box and get you up and running using and leveraging your existing SharePoint environment within weeks, instead of having to spend time and money and effort on developers, consultants, etc. Right? And if we go back to that point of these are being supported, Crow Canyon will, we support these tools, we upgrade these tools, we maintain these tools, and you can come to us with any questions, as opposed to, like I said, paying a consultant and then having them just kind of disappear on you and you're stuck with whatever they built, or leveraging or trying to rely on Microsoft's documentation. Now I know some people are like, Ryan, I already have a help desk, or I'm already using some project management software. That's okay, right? SharePoint itself has great connectivity, or has a really great opportunity to connect to these other third-party tools, specifically Flow, right? So for those on Office 365 or 2016, 2019, not sure if it's available in 2013. I'll have to check on that and get back to you guys post-webinar. But what we have from Flow or SharePoint Designer is the ability to build in these connections to other third-party tools. So if you're like, okay, I don't need this, I'm using Freshdesk, I'm using Zoho, right? But I still want that landing page. I still want all of my employees to come to one common space and be able to hyperlink out to those different tools. Well, it really comes down to what an integration means to you, right? Do we want to send an email? Can we submit a request in SharePoint and have an email be created and have it be sent to those third-party tools? Or do we want to build on a full-out integration, right? So Microsoft's done a really great job with the API connectors in Microsoft Flow, and our workflow tool in Nitro Studio has the ability to leverage that. Same with SharePoint Designer, right? SharePoint itself is sitting on a SQL database. So those connections with those other third-party tools are not unheard of, and it's something that, quite frankly, we do pretty often, right? So it's definitely possible, and it's not anything that can't be done. It's not this huge hurdle that you have to get over if you're already using those other tools in your system. It just gives you a way to centralize all that information. Okay, so now let's look at the application here a little bit as we wind down towards my little chat. Thank you for dealing with that. So what we have here is our self-service portal, right? So it's a page where you can do exactly what we talked about: submit tickets, whether it's purchase requests, hardware requests, facilities requests, all these little quick links built into this site. You can see I've embedded a report here on this page. And I think that's another main thing I want to touch on real quick before I get into this. But this doesn't have to be specific to your end users. If you have C-level folks or management level folks, directors who want to see a portal for staff members or for C-levels, you can embed these different reports within these portals as well to make it really pointed at any target audience. So now it just kind of looks generic here, and the idea behind it is that it's as configurable as you want it to be. So now as I come into the edit version of this page, you kind of get the idea of what we can do here. So going back to the Nitro Studio and having all these web parts available in this page, you really have the flexibility to not only leverage the web parts available in SharePoint, but also the web parts available in Crow Canyon. So you can see we have that report embedded, we have the quick tickets embedded, and then you can feel free to come in and create and add any web parts that you want, right? We can search Crow Canyon. We have that reporting feature like I showed you. We have different list view options where you can tab through different list views and see roll-ups of your work orders, your tickets, your purchase requests, all from one view. And this can be branded specific to your particular organization. You can update your logo, the color scheme. If you have your own CSS, it can also be applied to this portal as well. Now, as we talk about the site setting, is that gonna let me? Yeah, it's gonna let me. So the site settings, I just want to touch on real quick because this is where we can configure that display text, our top bars here. But we also have this live chat integration piece. So we have the support bot, right? The chatbot, the AI services that I talked about, and that's something that you can leverage here. But if you're using your own chat tool, Slack, Olark, I think is something that we use internally, and you want to use that in this portal, that's also a possibility. So you're not limited to just Crow Canyon tools. We have the ability, it's kind of a reoccurring theme here, but the ability to pull everything into one easily a consumable space. Now, when we do submit tickets, when we do submit requests, it gives you the ability to have these forms pop up in line. Now, what's nice about these forms is that these are Nitro forms and they are configurable just like the portal is. So you can see my user information, my user info is pre-populated. I'm logged in as my admin account. My admin account information is populated there. I can come in and fill out my ticket details, category, issue type, department, ticket descriptions, rich text. They can include attachments, and then once they hit save, this request is going to be routed to the appropriate department, right? So this idea of the self-service portal and a service request management system is now possible in Office 365. They come in, submit a ticket, that ticket gets routed to the appropriate backend, right? This, whether it's a Crow Canyon application or one of those third parties, they still have that ability to submit requests and have it be routed to the, like I said, the appropriate application. Now, the other layer on this is, yes, we have the self-service portal, the main landing page, but we can also do something at the departmental level as well. So it just depends on how you want to architect it. If you want to have one portal at the top and then have each one of these applications have their own portal, that's also possible as well. Now, I'm mixing up the experience on purpose. We're switching from modern to classic, but I want to show you guys that it's possible to do both, right? The same idea goes here. Being able to submit a ticket. These forms are mobile responsive, so you can submit them, let me scroll this down. So it can be on your laptop, it can be on your iPhone, it can be through the SharePoint app, right? If you use the modern UI, you can leverage that SharePoint app. We've also seen people create this as a shortcut and have it be in an app on their iPhone. But what's cool here is that we're trying to push towards this mobile-friendly environment. And now when you start to put all the pieces together of mobile-friendly, everything from one common interface, being able to submit requests across all of your departments, it starts to make a lot more sense, not only from a structure perspective, but also from a ease of use perspective from your IT staff, right? And the same idea goes to here as it did at the top level, that top portal. We submit a ticket, we hit save, and now this is being sent specifically to IT, I believe. Yeah, IT. So when the request is created, now it comes down into these third level sites, these workspaces, the departmental level, where your technicians can get their hands on their tickets. And what's nice about this, at least what I hear from our customers, is that the permissions perspective. Now we're looking at the backend site for your IT staff, and they're going to manage your tickets and your assets through this backend site. Well, what's great about this is that it's permissioned only for your IT staff. Your end users don't even have to know that this exists. All they know is that they go to the portal, they either click on their IT portal or they submit a form. That form that request gets submitted, and now they have the ability to view their tickets, see the status of their tickets, who the assigned staff is, add notes in after the fact, see knowledge-based articles specific to that department or across all of your departments. But the idea is that we've made it easy on your end users to submit the request, view the information, and we've completely segregated from the departments, so we don't have to worry about end users being where they're not supposed to be. All that they see is that, hey, I go to this place to submit a request. In the departments, all they see is this back end or their workspace where they can go in and manage those requests. And we're just going to load this dashboard here for you so you can see what it looks like. So when it comes to managing your different requests, you can see tickets assigned to you, or we can make it report heavy from a manager side as well. Once these bad boys load. Okay. And just one thing, one kind of plug on Nitro Studio I want to touch on, because I think it's a cool piece before I open it up for questions, is that our reporting tool, like I said, these are live, so these are list specific, right? They're tied to a list or a view, so anytime these get updated, they update automatically. But you can also do things like have these be drill downs, export to Excel, export to PDF, PNG, email. You can print these. We have a printing tool in our Nitro Studio. But what's nice is that these can also be scheduled. So leveraging the workflow tool, right? Whether that's connecting to Flow, our workflow tool also has a set of actions based on triggers, right? That's creating, we talked about it a little bit already, creating tickets when a request is submitted, notifying, the appropriate department when a request is submitted. But also what you can do is that you can send these reports out on a date and time of your choosing. So I want to send, incoming requests for the previous month to the departmental managers the first of every month at 9 a.m. That is also possible here, and that can be as an attachment and come over as a PNG. We have a lot of options there. Well, we got about 4 minutes left, so I do want to address any questions that came in, or if you have questions now, feel free to shoot those over. But if not, and you want to see a more in-depth demo, you want to see the portal, specifically how it's going to apply to your organization, I do encourage you to reach out either at sales@crowcanyon.com. I guess I could pull up the PowerPoint slide here. Where are we? There we go. So sales@crowcanyon.com here at the bottom. You can go to our website and request a demo there. I will be sending out the PowerPoint after the fact, as well as a data sheet on the service portal, as well as our charter, Crow Canyon being a charter partner with Microsoft. And then what I will suggest too is going to the workshop we have planned for this configurable portal. It's going to be run by James Restivo. He's a colleague of mine. So he's going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of how this portal works, how to configure it, how to make it make sense for your organization. But if you can't wait until the 26th and you want to see the demo, like I said, please reach out, please contact us. I'd be happy to show you it live. And for those existing customers of ours and you're interested and you already have an application in place, don't worry. We have a plan to have we have an upgrade plan for you on how you can leverage this within your organization as well. Scott, any questions you want to shout out, or anything you want to cover before we sign off here?
No, there aren't any questions that specifically were asked by the attendees in the question box, but I'm sure that you raised some questions and people will want to see it in more detail or do a one-on-one demo, bring it to their group and arrange a demo. Also, that workshop you mentioned on September 26th, it would be good. There's a lot to this portal, whether it's what version of SharePoint you're on, what version of whether you want modern or classic, whether you have mobile needs. It really depends on the requirements of the organization that you're part of, and it's very, very adaptable, very, very configurable to have your logo, your colors, your particular requests that are needed, and to really give the users a good experience with engaging for services within the company. Also, like Ryan, you were saying, not only can they submit view tickets, there's also that whole knowledge base element, or knowledge base FAQs, where we're using some AI to if they put in a question, to get an appropriate response back. Mm-hmm. Also, we can incorporate a chatbot if they want. So the portal is really an opportunity for people to give their users an experience that gets them answers more quickly and better information, and in a more organized place. Like you mentioned, the siloed departments, that's characteristic of many organizations. The portal gives an opportunity to bring it all into one place, one portal that rules them all, kind of thing, where there's one place they can go without separate logins and separate systems being maintained, and they can access our back-end applications or other SharePoint applications or even external systems. I think that you showed that, and we can show it in more detail to anyone who's particularly interested.
Yeah, I think you made a good point there about what version of SharePoint you're on. I just want to touch on that one more time. You kind of sparked something inside, but you don't have to be on the latest and greatest. I showed the modern UI. I also showed the classic UI. The idea here is we have this available for all versions of SharePoint. 2013, 2016, 2019 online, both classic and modern UI. So don't hesitate if you feel like, oh, I'm not using the modern, I can't use this tool. We also have this available in the classic UI as well. And I did see a question come in about pricing. If you do have pricing questions, we are going to send a follow-up email after the webinar, but I will right now, if anyone just kind of wants to pop their question in or put their name in for pricing, I'd be happy to pass that to you in an email post-webinar here.
Okay, I'm just typing in some answers here.
Perfect. Alrighty, well, we've reached our time here, and I don't want to keep you guys past the bottom of the hour. So, like we said, if
hold on. Let me get some questions. Yeah, if people want to stay on for questions, they can, and I'll keep answering them. All right. Okay. Perfect. There's recording available. Somebody wants an average cost. Okay, we'll talk about that. Somebody else's average cost. Okay, good. Some other people, people are asking for one-on-one demos. That's good, and we're good shape there. Yeah, good. So we'll explore this concept much more, and really the questions will be answered that come up when you talk, and we have an interactive conversation. Whereas the webinar is kind of we're talking to you, where we like to hear from you, so we know what you need and want, and how we can meet those requirements. So yeah, a couple other questions coming in. Somebody's asking about the cost. How does it work? Okay, we'll get that. Well, I mean, since that is coming up as a question, basically, the way our cost structure works is we have a expensive Office 365 or SharePoint on premises, pretty similar. But basically, the idea is that there is a cost for the applications. Those are whatever applications you have. The portal itself is another cost that we're pricing right now. What's our pricing? Our pricing on the website is $3.99 a month.
Correct. Just a shade under 5K for the portal.
For the year.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Yeah, for the year. And that's that. Then the other applications can be tied right into it. It's highly configurable, customizable to make it look the way you want. And those, that's ballpark numbers right there. So if you want to put together a whole system with the portal and other applications, we can discount some of the additional applications. We work it out with you as to what's appropriate, or if there's nonprofit or educational pricing. So we, $3.99 is like list price up there on the website for the portal, and the applications are separate purchase. I mean, they can be done at the same time, but they're another cost in addition to the portal.
And I do see that one of our existing customers who's gone through this with us recently has given us a very nice shout out. So thank you for that, Carol. Yeah, we do try to make this affordable and easy to configure. From the licensing perspective, it does not depend on the size of the company. You can use it as just one license. That is entirely up to you. But yeah, we license it per site. So one portal is $3.99 a month. And then if you want to have multiple, that's up to you. But typically what we would see is that one portal, and then you'd look at adding in applications, maybe an IT help desk, or maybe a facilities work order tracking, purchase request, something like that.
Right. There's one question about, is it our portal or Office 365? The portal resides within Office 365. So it's in your tenant. That's the point. I maybe it wasn't clear. Yeah, and there's, okay, two questions there. One I'll get right away. The Office 365, it runs in your tenant, the portal, or if on premises, run in your SharePoint. So it's not like you have to have a separate portal that we're running as a SaaS or external solution. This is in your tenant or in your SharePoint environment. We do have specific departmental portals, such as for HR. If you get our HR request manager system or onboarding, that has a portal within itself for just that one department. The employee self-services focuses more on multi-departmental portal, where there's one interface people can go to and have not the siloed applications, but access to a range of applications as well as knowledge base and FAQs. But we do definitely have an HR portal also. We could talk about that. That's right. A great use of HR, great use of portals in HR.
Exactly right. And I think you hit the nail on the head, right? You have that top level where it's kind of that main portal landing page. Think of it as like a departmental intranet, or I'm sorry, the main portal landing page, and then you can go down to these departmental portals for HR, for IT, for facilities, and they can have their own individual space. So absolutely, you can have it structured that way. It just depends on your internal requirements. I mean, that's the nice thing about leveraging SharePoint, is that we can make it what you need it to be from an architecture perspective.
Right, and someone was asking about change control, which is, and I think if I got the question right, it's like this: is that someone would set up the portal or some group, whatever, and then as far as changes to it, well, only certain people would have permissions to make changes.
Right.
So whatever change control process works best for you, it might be submit a request to make a change to the portal through a request system, one of the request applications, I guess. So then you would have the request come in and somebody would agree to make it, or a committee agree to make it and then not, or it could be very, very one-off. Oh, that sounds like a good idea, let's change it now. I mean, it really depends on what level of change, what level of control you want on the portal. We can enact any level at all. It can be very flexible or very restricted.
Right, and that's something that to highlight too about the Nitro Studio is that yes, we can leverage existing SharePoint permissions, but you can also grant, remove unique permissions using our workflow tool as well. So we have a lot of flexibility again in that regard.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's a very, very flexible. Both the Nitro Studio gives a lot of power and capabilities. However you want to use, modern or classic, or different web parts, or different things you want to show. Also, it can be specific to certain groups and users. Like Ryan was talking about managers seeing a particular interface versus users versus. So there's a lot of flexibility. And not only that, and the forms are also very dynamic too. So it could be the forms are very dependent. Could be dependent on certain type of request or type of user or group or location. Many opportunities there to customize it for your particular purpose.
That's a good point. I mean, I think the one thing I touched on it briefly, but Scott raises it again, and I think it's a good thing to touch on, is that we've done a lot of webinars recently about a lot of the pieces that goes into this, the applications, the forms, the Nitro Studio, and that if you do want additional information, you can find that. You can go back and watch previous webinars. I tell you what, we might even link a few of those in the follow-up email from this webinar with the recording. But if you are interested, I think it's always best to just reach out and schedule a more personalized demo where you can spend an hour specifically on the application and the tools that underlie them.
Right. Our overall goal is workplace automation, to bring the powers of SharePoint and Office 365 to you, so that you can leverage those tools, those investments you already made, and drive productivity and workplace automation, and make the experience easier, better, and quicker for the user so that they can get the answers they need right away or very quickly, as possible anyway. And for the back end, there's less confusion because they go into their particular department for managing an assignment and fulfillment of the request, whatever the request is. And what our real goal is even to make it so some level of repetitive requests or requests that can be answered by chatbots or FAQs or knowledge base would be answered right there. So that way you don't waste the user's time. The user gets the answer right away, and you don't waste the back-end time trying to find an answer that would be obvious in an FAQ or KB, or some kind of automated response could happen right there. So you save time in two places, the user and the back-end staff. And that really is what drives productivity. And the whole goal of Microsoft, we work with them closely as a preferred partner, is that they want to drive this automation, want to drive this productivity in organizations through the use of SharePoint, Office and the other Office 365 elements. And here's a great way to do it with our Nitro Studio, with our applications, with our portal. This is where we are with the company. This is what the company does. And we found much success with it with many organizations around the world. So we want to continue that, and hopefully some people on the webinar will contact us and find out ways we can help them out with those goals.
Perfect. Well, thanks again, Scott. Thanks for joining. And thanks everyone for attending. Like we said, there's been a few questions about recordings. Yes, this is recorded. We are going to send it out. Tomorrow, I think we'll get it out somewhere in that time, either today or tomorrow, but we will send you the recording as well as some of those data sheets and maybe some previous webinars as well. But thanks again for joining, everyone. Scott, thanks for hopping on. Appreciate you answering the questions, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Okay, thank you, Ryan.